Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to our Zone 33, 34, and more Zoom call for Monday, April the 13th. I think it's wet and windy for most of us, wherever you are, so this is great.
Stephanie, you muted yourself.
Well, it helps when you can hear me. Hey, let's start that again. Welcome to our Zone 33 and 34 and more Zoom call. Today is Monday, April the 13th. It is wet and windy, I think, for most of us, and it's a great day to be online so that we can see each other. Today, as you know, it's our Rotary Club shirt day. So if you have a Rotary Club shirt on, hold it up so that folks can see. I see Robert has one, MTS has one. See a lot of Rotary shirts. They're looking good there. So thanks for joining us. Big Trevor holding up his there. Great. So everybody looks good. I think you all are comfortable with using the chat window. That's where we will post questions or comments if you have any. So at this time, I'm going to turn the program over to Peter Kyle, our director-elect, because he's going to introduce our special cameo guest for the day. Peter.
Thanks, Stephanie, and good afternoon, everyone. We indeed have a very special cameo guest, someone who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. Barry Rassin, the one and only Barry Rassin, past international president, current trustee from Nassau, Bahamas. No further introduction is needed. Barry, we're delighted to have you on board. We're delighted to have you in our two zones. Please, the floor is now yours.
Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Stephanie and David. Pleasure to be here with you all. It's nice to break up our routine, right? We have so much fun just being in our house all the time. In my country, we've now had, this is our 5th day of lockdown. We have not been allowed to leave our property for any reason whatsoever, unless, of course, you have to go to the hospital. An interesting challenge. I am so fortunate because my wife and I get along so well, and we're actually able to be in the same room most of the time, so it's really good. But I think what we all have to do is start thinking about what is the new normal going forward, because you know the big question everybody asks, when is it over? When is it over? The reality is it's never going to be over. This is going to change everything for a long, long time to come. And we have to deal with the new normal. And we need to look at it in a positive way. A lot of people are having issues with depression and just the challenge of being stuck in one place. Most of us in Rotary are definitely attention deficit disorder. And we need always to be doing something. We are at home. I guess all our houses have been blitzed or done. I congratulate you. I'm still working on some of mine. But we have to think about the positive side of it. And it's really an opportunity for us to think about what should we do differently going forward. You know, in any basic business book, it tells you if you want to make major change, then have a crisis. Well, we didn't have to make this crisis. We got our own. But let's use it and think about what are we going to do differently. My club has 150 members, and we're seeing people on our Zoom calls every week that we haven't seen in years, from honorary members and folks that we just don't see. Let's build on that. Let's capitalize the fact that they're willing and able and have a desire to be a part of what we're doing in a different way. We're talking already about maybe once this is back to some kind of normal, then we'll still have a Zoom meeting once a month, just to help bring in those people who might not. Our organization is going to be challenged. Let's face it. We do service. We do hands-on service. We're out there helping people, and we can't. I've got this hurricane disaster in 2 islands and we're not even allowed to fly there to help them. And they're running out of food, and we got to get creative. I know somebody there who's a second homeowner from the States. He's going to use his Visa card. We're going to send money to his American 501c3 so he can buy food for the people there. We got to get creative with what we're doing, because more people than ever are going to need our help. And that's what we do as Rotarians. And we, in my opinion, we're going to drop membership. And as we drop membership, we've got to be thinking, who are those people who didn't join before, but now we're so digital, they want to join. And a lot more people now want to help others because they see the need around the world. This is an opportunity for us to talk to those individuals, say, come join us, come be a part of an organization that doesn't let anything stop them, that still makes changes around the world. The trustees, our chairman-elect Ravi Ravindran has already set up a committee to, he doesn't start till July 1st, but we're going to start meeting and determining what should the foundation do differently to help our Rotary clubs deal with COVID-19. And we're going to do it, and we're going to come up with some different things. We're going to change, and we've all got to have open minds for that change, because this is the time. This is the time for Rotary to really show who we are, what we are, and how important we are. We're getting more organizations come to us and say, we don't know what to do, we're kind of stuck, but we want to give somebody money to help, and we know Rotary has integrity, and I think that's a key that we should build on. Great opportunity for every one of us. So thank you all for what you're doing from your homes. Thank you all for staying safe and staying healthy and staying home, because we all need to work together going forward more than ever before. So thank you all. Thank you for inviting me today. It's such a pleasure to see you. Thank you.
Barry, thank you so much for being here. If anyone has questions of Barry, please put it in the chat window. Just put it on the chat, and we'll take a minute or so for those if there are any, or raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. Okay, Barry, thank you so very much for being with us today and seeing thank yous on the chat window there. And we appreciate all you're doing for us. And Stephanie, back to you.
Yes, thanks, Past President Barry, so much for your words. You know, you're absolutely right. The way we usually did business was ripped from us. And so we have had to be creative. So this situation is forcing us to adapt and do Rotary business differently. And we are up for the challenge. So thank you for your great words. I'm going to ask Director David if he will introduce our special program for the day. David?
So I'm so happy to introduce our program today. Glen Ward hails from South Carolina, and he is a Southern humorist. He spin tales about his life. And Director Stephanie and Director Peter and I thought we just needed something different than talking about Rotary today. So we've got some humor for you today, and sit back, enjoy the show. And Glenn, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, David. It's an honor to be with you again. I thoroughly enjoyed the visit with the Zoom event last Friday morning and was looking forward to our time today. And I know that we have a lot of folks today who did not join us Friday, but for those of you who were a part of Friday's meeting, I want to let you know that I've totally revamped my presentation today so you don't have to hear the same program 3 days later. But I thought I would begin today by letting you know a little bit about what I get in terms of questions as a professional speaker. As I've been doing this now for 27 years plus, traveling around and speaking and entertaining folks and having a great time, it's a joy to do that. And I get a lot of questions, and some of the questions are the same. One of the questions I typically get is this. People will ask me when they see me show up at a conference, and you know, back in the day when we actually met face to face, folks would see me milling around during the social hour or whatever, and they knew I was not a part of their company or a group or whatever. And so they would come up and look at my name tag and try to figure me out. And they would ask me, now, who are you? And I would say to them, well, I'm your speaker. I'm your speaker today. And I'd say, oh, okay. Then the next question would be, what are you going to talk to us about? And I'd say, well, I am a humorist and inspirational speaker, and I'm here to have fun with you today, and so on and so forth. And right about that time, maybe the guy or the lady and I have been talking for minutes on end, having a great conversation. As soon as I mention the words humorist, they start backing up because they're afraid that what they have just shared with me is going to show up in my program that day. So I get a lot of that. That's a lot of fun. And then, of course, the other thing I get, people never ask me if I'm from the South. They just ask me, what part of the South are you from, Glenn? They just know that because of my accent. And so I play with that a little bit. And folks ask me oftentimes, they'll say, well, now, they'll say to me, you know, you talk funny. And then sometimes they're a little more polite and they'll say things like, well, I could listen to you talk all day, which is another way of saying I talk funny. And then I also have people treat me like a pet, and they ask me to repeat what I've just said so that they can go, I guess, around the corner somewhere and laugh at me for a little bit or what have you. But David Stovall and I do not need an interpreter to understand what each other's saying. We get it. And that's just kind of who we are here in the southeastern part of the United States. But one of the greatest accents that we ever had in our neck of the woods, in our part of the world, was that of our late, great Senator Strom Thurmond. Now, you know, of course, he's passed away years ago and that sort of thing, but Strom Thurmond he just had it all when it came to things he would say and the way he would say it. He would take to the floor of the United States Senate and say things like, the reason people are living longer today is because they're not dying sooner. And of course, we never knew what he was going to say, but we South Carolinians change senators every 50 years, whether we need to or not. So we just kept electing him and re-electing him until he was the age of 100 before he retired. But this happened to Senator Thurmond years ago. And again, I'm just having a little clean fun here. He was chairing the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he had all this clout and the chairmanship of this powerful position in Washington. And across the room, or seated in front of him, was a distinguished general. And Senator Thurmond was asking this general questions, and he was reading his questions, and that's quite okay. He was saying to him something like, General, how do you feel the United States military is doing at this present time? And the general, after his aide interpreted to him what Senator Thurmond was saying to him, finally got what he was saying. And he said to Senator Thurmond something like, General, I believe, or Senator Thurmond, I believe we've got this worked out. The economy's picked up. Things are going well. The military's fully funded. We're doing great. Senator Thurmond looked back at his notes and said, if the general answers yes, ask him if he also feels further military funding might be needed in the future. So it's okay to look at your footnotes sometime, and our wonderful Senator Thurmond would do that. And so he was just larger than life. Now, people ask me also, one of the questions I get as a speaker is, when did you begin watching people and observing people and studying people and going out and retelling your stories? I said, well, it didn't happen when I was in high school. It didn't begin when I was in my 20s or 30s. It began for me when I was in middle school as a little boy. We had a teacher, and for those of you who are educators, I'm sure you can appreciate this. We had a teacher who had this very raspy voice, and we don't really know, I don't know why she was so up. Thankful for my pinch hitter. Thank you so much. We lost power here just a little bit ago. Had to shut the laptop down. I'm using my wife's smartphone, and it went out too. So anyhow, thankfully, we're back on track. Okay, as I was saying, Miss Dozier had this way about her, but here's what I did about it. I learned as a child that it was okay to have good, clean fun, to impersonate people, and just enjoy the day, just enjoy the moments of the day, even in difficult, stressful times. And that was a real blessing to me. There was a therapy, if you will, about laughter and enjoying a moment and creating fun in the middle of, if you're about to have a test or take a test, or if you're in the middle of some crisis, whatever, do something fun and make the most of a moment. That occurred to me and came to me even as a child. And I was making that point years ago down in Charleston, South Carolina, at a speaking engagement. And afterwards, this nurse came to me and she said, Glenn, I work in a local hospital here. And she said, this happened to us years ago. She said, one night, it was Halloween night of whatever year that was. She said, the CEO of our hospital asked us as nurses on the night shift if we would go out and make our rounds dealing with all the patients as we dealt with them throughout the night in costume. And she said, we didn't want to do it. We thought it was silly. We thought the patients wouldn't appreciate it. And so we sent word back to the CEO to please not let us have to worry about that. And he sent word back down, no, please do it. Now, obviously, when you're talking about costumes, you're not talking about witches and vampires, because if you go in someone's room at 3 a.m. to check their blood pressure dressed like a vampire, you could cause some problems, of course. So he encouraged them, the CEO encouraged the nurses to dress up like Disney characters, something fun and light. And they did. They didn't want to do it, but they did. And she said, Glenn, after that shift was over that evening, and we began looking at our charts as the new nurses were coming on and we were leaving, as we were passing the charts along to them, we made an amazing discovery. And that was simply this, that we dispensed that evening about 1/3 of the typical amount of pain medication that we would typically and normally disperse during that shift on an average basis. She said it was an amazing thing, just going in and acting and interacting with folks with a fun and lighthearted sort of way. She said that's not a clinical trial, it's just an anecdotal thing, but she said it happened to us and she passed it along to me. So the point is simply this, wherever we are and whatever circumstances we're in, there's a blessing to it. And even in scripture, we're told that laughter doeth good like a medicine. So that's a therapy that I wanted to share with you today. Now, moving along very quickly, I know our time's limited. There's another thing that I think is a therapy in life, and that's music. My dear mother still plays the piano in her church, still plays. When I was a little boy growing up in a minister's home, my mother made me stand by the piano at home and learn old songs so that I might sing them in church along with my siblings. I thought it was torture. But the worst torture of all for me was on Saturday night, my mother making me sit in the living room and watch Lawrence Welk. That was torture. I didn't know what, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, Bobby and Sissy are going to a dancer for you. I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't know what Geratola was. I didn't know why he was peddling that stuff. The only thing I knew was I was made to sit there and watch Lawrence Welk. Well, now I have this appreciation for music, all sorts and genres of music, and I love music. But music has changed a lot since I was a little boy. When you turned the television on as a little boy and sat there and listened to music, you would hear voices singing like, make the world go away, get it off my shoulder, say the things you used to say, and make the world go away. That's how music has changed just a little bit. And now, as I was watching Johnny Mathis, these other people sing on Lawrence Welk, and then as I saw Mr. Feeney, the Irish tenor, I was always fascinated with him to the degree that my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder would be calmed as I would watch this dear man as he would take center stage and sing, oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be true sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. And that's when I would be absolutely calm and at my best behavior as a child. So I learned these things. And now I was watching a movie not long ago, and Aaron Neville, the great artist out of New Orleans, was singing Ave Maria beautifully. I love the song, and I love to hear him sing it, but he had the vibrato turned up just a little bit too high. He was singing, Ave It just went on and on and on. That's just the way the guy sings. That is his style. And now I have this appreciation for music. It just happened again as a child. Now, let me tell you one quick lesson that I've learned about music. Music's wonderful. It's a real blessing in life. And somehow, let me just admit something to you that maybe most grown men would not admit, but I will. I've been driving down the road in my car, hoping that the traffic light up ahead would turn green so that I would not have to stop at the intersection. Because I didn't want to stop at the intersection because I didn't want folks in the car next to me to look over and see me, a grown man, crying as I was listening to the radio, and one of those old songs that I thought was torturous when I was a child, one of those old songs just so happened to be playing on the radio. And whatever was going on in my mind that I was worried about at the time, that music was able to bypass all that thought process and go straight to the heart. So I've learned in life from childhood to now that laughter is a beautiful blessing. It's therapeutic, but so is music. And oftentimes when we can't laugh because of whatever the problems might be, if we'll listen to one of those old songs that our dear mothers taught us as children, sometimes that old song will bypass again the thought process and go straight to the heart and give us our laugh back. It's just one of those blessings of life. Well, we don't have much time today, so let me give you the third and final, what I call therapy of life. Laughter and music, and the third is simply this: the opportunity to be involved in the lives of people. Now, let's be really honest with each other. We know that John Q. Public at times can be very difficult, can actually be a rude dude. And wood and concrete and steel can be easier to work with sometimes than people. But the songwriter said people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. I like to say it this way: we're the most blessed people in the world. And I've been in Rotary since 2002, and I love Rotary. I absolutely love Rotary. And the greatest thing to me about Rotary is, of course, I guess the humanitarian things we do as Rotarians, but the second best thing would be the fellowship that we have with fellow Rotarians and just being around other people. That's a blessing, and I really miss that right now with our social distancing and online stuff. But again, hopefully in time, we'll get back to that. But the point is simply this: we're the busy people. We're the 20% usually that gets the other 80% of the work done at not only Rotary, but church and at the chamber and other places. We're the folks people come to get help and to get things done. But in all of our busyness and all of our work, let me encourage you in this whole people business that there is a group of individuals or people that we should never, ever overlook. And let me just sum it up this way. Several years ago, a guy here in Columbia attended a meeting with me, and he shared something. He was from Charlotte, North Carolina. And he said to us, those of us at the meeting, he said, when he was a boy, his father was a medical doctor and obviously a very busy man. And he said at the end of the day, his father had this little thing that he did. He would come home, loosen his necktie, take off his coat and sit in his man cave, his den, and watch the evening news. And at that time, he would eat his dinner. And that was his dad's sacred time. He was not to be disturbed. That's the way his dad would unwind after a busy, busy day in his medical practice. And he said at this point in time, he was in his teens, and he said he had some problem, didn't tell us what it was, but he said, I really needed to talk to my dad. And he said, when Dad came home that day, sure enough, he made a beeline to his man cave. He was watching the evening news, eating his dinner. And he said, I really, really needed to talk to my dad. So I braved up enough nerve to go in there. And he said, Dad, I really need to talk to you for just a minute. I know this is your quiet time, but may I talk to you? And he said, my dad took the remote control and turned Dan Rather off. And he said, when my dad did that, I knew right then that my problem was half solved. It was already half solved. The point I'm making is this. We have folks to whom we come home at the end of the day. They love us and we love them, of course. They're our family members, and all of our business and all of our Rotary things we do, which is absolutely vital and wonderful. At the end of the day, when we come home to those folks who love us best, we should not overlook them. We should spend quality and wonderful time with them as well. And that is that third therapy of life that we're so blessed to have. Laughter and music and people, just three of the wonderful therapies of life that we have. That's my brief Rotary message to you today. David, thank you so much for inviting me today, and it's great to see you. Some of you I know, I've recognized your faces as we've moved around. It's great to see you again. For those of you I don't know, God bless you, and I do hope to see you soon at a Rotary meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. It's so great to have you with us today. Glenn is a full-time speaker, and I put his email address up there and his telephone number if you need him for an audience. We are also recording these calls. Someone asked and may not have seen it in the chat, but later in the day it will be uploaded to YouTube and it will be posted on our Zone's Facebook page. And if you'd like Glenn to think about him for a future engagement, just screenshot the screen now, and you should be able to reach out to him either way, either by phone or by email. And also, while we're talking about it, I would like to recognize Director Stephanie, while I have the mic, that we do have a Rotary Foundation trustee on the call with us. Brenda Cressy is with us today, and we do welcome you, Brenda. And Stephanie, with that, I'm back to you.
Okay, thanks, David. I would just like to echo your thanks to Glenn. Glenn, that was amazing. Thank you for the laughs. We could certainly use them during these times. And you know what? You have a really good singing voice. Even though you're impersonating crooners, you have a really great voice. So thanks, Glenn.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Peter, Director-elect Peter, if he will talk to us a little bit about our upcoming programs. Peter.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. And can I also thank Glenn? That was really quite entertaining. So we have a great program next Friday and Monday. We have 2 cameo appearances, which I'm not going to reveal at this stage because they're very special, but you'll want to join in and meet them. The presenter on Friday, the Friday call, and on Monday call, there's going to be another very special person, Dr. Mary Berg. Mary will be known to many of you. She's a past district governor from Pittsburgh. She's a clinical psychologist, and her speech is going to be called Staying Sane During COVID-19. Mary is in high demand. She's already done many presentations to Rotary clubs. She's a very dynamic speaker, lots of personality, lots of charisma. You're really going to enjoy Mary's presentation. So next Wednesday, David will be sending out the details for the Friday morning call at 7:30. And after the Friday call, he'll be sending out the details for the Monday noon call. So make a note to join us either or both Friday morning and Monday noon of next week. Stephanie, back to you.
Actually, Peter, All you do to get into the call, everyone, is log into .db. You made it in this morning, so tell all the people around you that you know about, Rotarians or not. Well, they'd have to be a Rotarian, but tell them to sign in to .db and join us either Friday morning at 7:30 or Monday at noon. Thanks, Stephanie.
Okay, thanks, Peter and David. And we are looking forward to a great program from Mary Berg. I just wanted to let you know that at one point today, we had 170 people on this call, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you all. That's wonderful. So before we adjourn for the day, as is our custom, we'd like you to recite with us the four-way test. Please stay muted, but Peter, David, and I will recite the four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Everyone have a great rest of the day and a great week ahead, and we hope to see you again on Friday. Bye now.